Nadine, does this come off? Probably, I don't want to break it or anything. I think we broke it. I'm just gonna, I'll put it back.
I'm the type of guy who never settles down where every girls are. Yeah.
There's a show.
I didn't
There's a show tonight.
Of course.
Okay.
At my wedding, I'm the only guy that got all the groups to sing along to her. And that's what we sang at my dad's 90th birthday party.
Okay, I'm turning it on.
I know the word, I know the words. Be recorded. I've been recorded doing worse.
Hold on, not to turn on. Awesome. We have to wait until the official Nadine says that we're.
We're rolling.
Oh. Okay. Hello, Piscataway. My name is Ken Vercammen. I'm an attorney from Edison, New Jersey, the next town over. And I'm here to talk about wills, powers of attorney, living wills, and probate. We got, about 40 minutes or so. I see they're bringing in more chairs because there's about 50, 60 people here. So that is good. Okay. The real thing is a lot of times people come to me and goes, Kenny, why do I need to have a will? Doesn't everything go to my kids? They goes, well, it depends. I mean, but that's not really doing planning. Sometimes that's like hoping that you're never going to pass away. Planning is always good because you're making it less expensive, less aggravating for the people that you care about. I mean, if you owned a house and there was a big leak in the basement, you wouldn't say, yeah, I'm just gonna stick that to my son. I don't really care. Let him fix it down the road. No, you want to take care of stuff. So now we've done programs with the surrogate before, and we typically talk about if there's no will or the will is not prepared correctly or signed correctly, the procedure becomes much more complicated. And the will, if it's not properly signed, the surrogate, think of the surrogate as a fancy name for the will clerk. Surrogates has to say, we came in to probate, you got to go in front of the judge. Now, if there's no will, there could be 3 kids and they all agree. Someone wants to be the administrator. How complicated would that be? Well, that means the ones who aren't going to be the administrator have to sign what's called a renunciation, has to be in front of a notary, and then a fee paid. And then the person who wants to be the administrator has to pay more money for a bond. And that's in the families where everyone agrees. Sometimes there's families where people don't agree. And then they got to spend thousands of dollars to go in front of a superior court judge, filing a complaint, or to show cause. There's no fill in the blank form. They got to spend a big chunk of money, and then wait a month and a half, 2 months before they even see a judge. So the bottom line is that you want to kind of do planning so that you make it easy for the family. No one, of course, when there's no will, it often causes fights, arguments, sometimes lawsuits amongst the family. So think about it. Who do you want to get your stuff? Who you don't want to get your stuff? Because remember, it's your right to do with your assets what you want. The only thing you can't do is leave a spouse penniless. After that, it's your right to do things. Now logistically, I'd say things have changed because the old way used to be you call some law office and make an appointment to go in, you take a day off of work, or you drive there, then you'd be in the reception area filling stuff out. And during COVID, well, there was no seeing human beings at all. So what we were doing was, we would email the questionnaire. And we realized that was much more easier for 95% of the people. Now, some of my brethren from my Elkstone goes, Kenny, I'm not really that good with computers. So we have a special form for them where it just asks, what's your name? What's your spouse's name? Who's executive 1, who's executive 2, who gets your stuff? Not that complicated. Let's see. So there's no reason why people should put off getting stuff done. I've never had anyone after doing a will say, oh, I wish I didn't do that. Everyone's like, good, I finally got that done. Last week a couple was in and I goes, how old is your oldest kid? 41. So you've been thinking about this for about 40 years. He goes, yep. And it goes, and we got all this done in 3 weeks. I bet, So, but the important thing about getting stuff done is that you get it done and it goes in the drawer. Let's say, so logistically, I mentioned, who's executive one, who's executive two. Sometimes we do get the people that, I don't even have a computer, okay, like, I go, but you have stuff, okay, here's what I suggest you do. You call up your granddaughter who lives 2 towns over and goes, listen, I need you to come over and see me for about an hour. In the next 2 weeks, I'm gonna give you $5,000 to do it. And if your granddaughter says, yeah, I'm too busy to see you for 3 weeks to get, okay, no problem. I'll put a clause that says you get nothing. So now, you want to have an executive one, executive two. You don't want to make joint executives because that creates, in a way, more work. I'd say, they could be twins living together, but that means 2 people got to do everything. 2 people got to sign every check, go to the surrogate's office, do everything. It's better to have, that's why there's one captainship, an executive number 1 and an executive number 2. I'd say, now, the will does not list any assets. Someone asked me last week, why doesn't it? It goes, well, we just simply need to know the day you're going to die and when you own that day. Otherwise, that's why assets are not listed, because it usually says, everything goes, some people, everything goes to my spouse and the kids. There are you could have the best will that was done, but there are certain assets that don't pass under the will. So examples are, if a husband and wife own a house together, that house automatically goes to survivor, goes to the winner. Let's say will can't change that. Other assets that have a beneficiary passed by title, such as bank accounts that are POD, joint tenancy, CDs, certain assets passed by contract, IRA, 401k, life insurance, annuity. The will can't change that. So I usually recommend that it is a good idea to, if someone says, I want these accounts to go specifically to people, or some people say, listen, I got 3 kids, just to make it easier, even though I have a will, they're on the accounts, good. Get a printout, put it in your will file. The good thing about a printout is you don't have to, you're confirming what you might have filled out at the bank. We were involved with a probate matter where the man filled out the paperwork to put his daughter down as beneficiary. He remembers mailing it, bank doesn't get, or the investment company doesn't get it. He passes away, daughter doesn't get it. So the will can't change. Yes, sir. You got a question, Mr. Rutgers?
What if your daughter gets married and she changes her?
Okay, the question is if you have a daughter and a child, no big deal, because there's really no question at all who that person is. Right? You get the book Law Point for Senior Citizens, even though you're not a senior. Because last week someone said, I need to do a new will. Why? My daughter got married, her name changed. It goes, save the $800. So is there any dispute in the world who this person is? The post office used to have pictures of wanted people, and it was AKA. Somebody goes, well, that's just simply also known as. So I tell people, no need to change the prior document. Let's say that. All right. So now we always ask people what real estate they have. I don't need to know what people's assets are. I just ask, is it more or less than $13 million? Say, okay, everyone here, do you even know anyone that has more than $13 million? Not that many people. That's because, believe it or not, New Jersey, actually reduced and eliminated some taxes. So there's no New Jersey estate tax. The inheritance tax and no inheritance tax if you go to spouse, children, grandchildren, stepchildren, charities. Federal tax starts at that $13 million. I don't have that. I don't know who does. So, your will simply says, hey, this is who gets my stuff. You have a question, ma'am?
So they don't get taxed?
No. And here's an and part. Let's say you bought your house for $200,000 15 years ago, $100,000 30 years. So the $100,000 house is now worth $400,000, okay? If you pass, it's what's called a step up in basis, so the children don't have to pay a capital gain.
Okay,
So, I mean, there was always talk that the federal government might change stuff. I say, don't worry about whether or not it's gonna snow on February 11th until February 8th. Don't worry about that unless it happens. It's an election week. Now, we know it ain't gonna happen this year, because this year is an election year. And there's not gonna be any increased taxes. Well, maybe in New Jersey, but that's different.
so do they get charged anything
I'd say there's.
if I leave in the house?
There's no capital gains, there's no inheritance tax, no estate tax, if it's going to children. Let's say, there is, some other states don't worry about it, we're only concerned about what's here in New Jersey. Now, your will should always have who gets, she gets a book. Second to last book. The will should always have who gets in case so-and-so passes away. So if someone has 3 kids, the will usually says, if any of my children shall pass, their share goes to their children. If they don't have children, it goes to someone else. But remember, it's your right to do with your stuff what you want. Mrs. D did an updated will. She goes, if my one son passes, it's going to my other son, because my grandson hasn't seen me in 2 years. He's 20 whatever years old. He lives in New Jersey. So if you don't want to see me, hey, that's his fault. But why should I give him money? Let's see. Another client there said, do I have to treat all my children equally? He goes, nah, you can give it to everything to the Yellow Dog Society, Golden Retrievers and Yellow Labs. I go, what's your concern? She goes, well, one of my sons lives on the West Coast. We don't hear much from him. Okay. Well, did he give you a card? Did he give you a call or a card on Christmas, Mother's Day, or your birthday? She goes, no. He goes, why would you give the bum anything? Wait, you don't call you? I go, geez, I remember one time I'm working. I'm in college and I'm working 2 jobs to get money, and all of a sudden it's like 8 o'clock on Sunday, and man, it goes, wow, I gotta call my mom's Mother's Day. So it was used to be expensive to call long distance, but working at Howard Johnson's front desk. Call up, hi mom, I want to call, wish you a happy Mother's Day. She goes, thank you, but Mother's Day's next week. I goes, oh, okay, I'll call you again when you're glad. I didn't forget. Now I don't have to worry about anything, because every 2 seconds I'm looking at my phone. I write down everything where I put it. So some people also have what's called specific requests. Some people might say, listen, I want to give $1,000, $5,000 to my church, my favorite charity, if I had. Now, if a charity is getting any money, library foundation, the Attorney General has to be notified. And if they're getting a percentage, then the Attorney General's office drags it out about a year and then requires an accounting of all the assets. So I tell people, listen, I believe in giving to charity, but give a set amount of money, so once they get their money, then the Attorney General's office doesn't drag it out another year, because everyone wants their money. And sometimes someone says, I give them X amount of money, it might say it's more than 200,000, if it's less, then they get on. So it's your right to do with your assets what you want. Now, some of the ladies say, I want my jewelry going to my daughter, my granddaughter. Some of the guys have stuff that is guy related, and their daughter's gonna throw it in the garbage can, because we think that stuff is valuable. I used to think these baseball cards from the 60s and 70s were so valuable. And when I'm selling my house, they've been at it for a while. I go online and goes, how can a 1966 Mickey Mantle only be worth $1? But that's how it's set. Now, we also want to have clauses so that certain people don't blow their money right away. So if it's going to, let's say, someone under 21, there's a clause that says they don't get it until they're 21, but the money can be used for college, education, maintenance support, whatever. So sometimes some people have a kid that's grown, but they're wayward. They got alcohol problems, other issues, so some people set up what's called the testamentary trust within a will for an adult saying, listen, I'm having one of the other kids hold their money in case I pass, but we don't want them to get the money outright because they're gonna need it over the next 20 years. We handled it in a state in Somerset County where the guy's ex-wife was owed money in alimony. She brings a complaint in Superior Court saying, Judge, I want you to compel the estate to pay me my alimony. I said, Judge, he doesn't have any money. This is set up as a testamentary trust for him, and it's discretionary, and believe it or not, that testamentary trust is protected from even taxes and nursing. The judge looks at the trust and within the will and says, hey, you're right, sorry, you don't get your. So protect young people, because otherwise they're gonna go to Maloof and say, hey, you got any sports cars? I just inherited $50,000. You got any sports cars? And the salesperson goes, we only have one left. And another person's about to put a deposit on it. You should go. Salesperson. The people that have young children, they want to have what clause for what's called a guardian, because like I said, some of the young people, they don't really have any money, but they have kids, and they goes, okay, do you understand if something happens to the parents, it's a bald white guy in New Brunswick that determines who gets custody of the kids. That's the probate judge. So some, there's no best person to raise your own kids, but you got sometimes people are gonna think, who don't I want? Make sure that if you have a will, it's a self-proving will. If you don't know, get a self-proving will. Now, the old way was the person signs two witnesses, but then one of the two people had to go in front of the surrogate and sign an affidavit saying they were the witness. And when my grandma passed, one of the witnesses says, yeah, I can sign it, my fee's $500. $500 for what? For me to sign? Well, what if we don't? Good. Then we would have to spend $4,000 going in front of the Superior Court judge. The new way of self-proving will, the person signs, two witnesses sign, then the attorney notary. It's done twice this way. When the person passes, the executor does not have to locate any of the witnesses. To probate the will, if it's done right, the original will, death certificate, check for $100 or so, and that's all that the surrogate usually needs. Not that complicated, right? That's why, when we did a program with some of the surrogates, they say, listen, stop cheaping out and doing these things online, because other surrogate goes, you're always screwing it up, and then you spend thousands of dollars more. So when I had my first house on Vineyard Road in Edison, it's a wooden Cape Cod, and I had those 2-prong electric outlets. I'd say, and I needed to make 3-prong electric outlets. So I go by the hardware store and I buy a kit, and I figured, oh, I'm smart, I can figure this out. I almost burned a house down. So sometimes doing your own stuff is not good. I can watch a video on YouTube how to do this plumbing stuff. Hey, if you do it right, you save the money on the plumber. You do it wrong, there's water and sewage going from the second floor to the third floor or first floor, and you still got to hire a plumber in. So now, only the original will can be amended to probate, not a photocopy. So most people just simply buy a fireproof box, you put it under the bed in that dead cell. That nothing ever goes under there except dust. Except now that we have those round vacuum cleaners that tool around, they go on. So not that complicated, is it? Get your will done, and that way you're really saving money for your family. Now, my mother-in-law used to call me up every other year and say, I wanna come in and get a trust done. And I would ask her, because we watched Susie Orman on TV. She goes, smiles and says, yes. I goes, Susie Orman, if you live in New York, California, Florida, probate process is very, very complicated, very, very difficult. New Jersey, though, as I said, you know, wait 10 days. What I ask people who are interested in trust, why do you want to spend $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 on all this stuff? So most people don't need these revocable trusts, and a revocable trust does not protect assets from taxes, nursing home, etc. So why spend them?
You had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So how long does a will take to actually go through the process of probate, I guess?
It depends, sometimes it depends upon how fast the executor works. How, you know, and who's inheriting, because now. If there are non-blood relatives that are inheriting, they're called, there is an inheritance tax, and that sometimes drags it out long. Sometimes it's a matter of how long does it take to clean out a house and sell a house, let's see. So it varies, but in New Jersey, usually less than a year. Yes, ma'am, in about.
So if you have the will, then what do you literally do with the will? So okay, have it now.
Let's see, if someone has a will, then she gets the last of the senior books. If you have a will done, then you simply, as I said, it's good, you put it in a fireproof box. Now you can't, a photocopy will can't be admitted to probate by the circuit. Some people make photocopies of it and give it to executor 1, executor 2, and say the original is located where. People that have access to scanners, scan it, email it to themselves, executive 1, executive 2, and say, the original will is located at wherever you're going to keep. Let's say it. Now, you don't want to keep the original will if there's not an equal distribution. Let's say one kid is getting 75%, another kid is getting 25%, the third one's getting 0%. Why is that? Because the people that aren't getting the higher part might ransack the house, find a will, rip it up, and goes, what will? So in that case, I tell the the person signing it, you're probably best off having executor number 1 who's getting the most, keep it so the other ones don't steal. All right. Now there's another. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Kenneth,
Yeah.
can you back up to trusts again? What is the purpose of a trust?
In other states, a revocable trust just avoids probate. There used to be people that were called trust salesmen, and they used to give people like a dinner at some restaurant and say, avoid probate. Probate's the devil. Well, and the Supreme Court actually disciplined certain attorneys that were trying to sell those, saying, you are lying to people. Probate in New Jersey is easy. You know, if some company was like, trying to sell it, the Supreme Court goes, we have no discipline over them, but we have discipline over attorneys. Let's say, and because probate only costs about $180, and I don't do it because it made me feel as if I'd be stealing. I read this book when I was on a trip. It was called Build for Attorneys, Building a $1 Million Estate Planning Practice. But it was really about trying to convince people like you guys to have these $5,000, $10,000 trust packages set up for something you don't really need. A revocable trust does not protect assets from Medicaid. It doesn't reduce taxes. It is recommended in other states where probate costs $15,000 and takes 3 years, like Florida, New York, California.
Tell me about it.
But
We just finished with tomorrow.
let's see. My father-in-law was a World War II vet. He had one condo in Florida. 15 different times we said to him, you should put this condo into a trust. Good luck telling some Ukrainian World War II vet anything. Nobody tells me what to do. Oh, now, On the other hand, some people, set up these elaborate, irrevocable trusts to, try to protect their assets from nursing. The attorneys that do it charge like $12,000 or $15,000 to do it. Because they goes, listen, this is the cost of 1 month in a nursing home, but they say, they say, yeah, and then it's a 60-month look back. So if someone is so concerned that they don't want their assets to go to nursing home and they can spend the money and do this thing, and it's protect. Now, people have been in my office and asked me, what do I do? I goes, did I set up one of these? I goes, no. Why do I want to have the assets not owned by me, owned by someone else through a trust where I don't have any control, where they could send me into the welfare nursing. Nursing home is paid for by the people. The only time the government pays is when someone's penniless. So let's say, I worked hard my whole life. I always share the story. I was a newspaper boy, pedaling in 38 degrees out in rain, delivering newspapers so I could get it. I could make a dime. Maybe another nickel for the Christmas time, the home news, like weighed like a big telephone book. So, me, why would I want to go into a dirty, ugly nursing home so my son, Dr. Brennan, can buy a bigger boat? Now, listen, if I'm not sick, this is just me. I want to be in a nice, that's my theory. Okay. Next, we're gonna, does anyone else have any other questions on wills before we talk about powers of attorney? Jack, okay, so the will takes care of your assets if you pass away. Now, and by the way, don't be a Carl. Carl was this engineer that contacted us. He wanted to have a will book. But general engineers are some of them that they want to read up on everything. I want to get more knowledge. I told this guy, Carl, you don't need to read anything. I went to law school and passed the bar. I go to seminars all the time. I wrote a book. I did this. Well, I want to read more up. Okay. 2 years later, the daughter of Carl calls us up. Do we have Carl's will? Because he just passed away. He goes, no, we kept on wanting to read stuff and never got it done. Let's see. So let's say, get your will done if you don't already have. As you know, nobody looks forward to cleaning a garage, a basement, etc. Let's say, sometimes the good thing about having people over, there could be a mess in the corner and boxes, whatever, and all of a sudden, someone's coming over, and all of a sudden you do all the stuff, and it kind of makes you feel good. Okay, good. I cleaned up that mess. I put this away. I did this. Having your documents done, you'll feel the same way. And most attorneys like us, we usually charge a $200 consult fee. If someone attends any of our seminars and contacts us within 30 days, I don't charge them. Some people also that work for big companies have what's called legal insurance, and it pays for having estate planning done. Some of the big companies that are in New Jersey are MetLife, ARAG, Legalese. Now, let's talk about the power of attorney. A will takes care of your assets if you pass away. What a power of attorney is, it's a document where while you're alive, you're in writing giving someone who you trust the ability to make sure your bills are paid, sign your checks, legally help you out. Even if someone's married, the spouse legally doesn't have the right to sign on behalf of the other. So let's say once a week, we get a call where someone says, I need to get power of attorney over mom, dad, my brother, whomever. Well, you can't get power of attorney over anyone. They have to affirmatively, in writing, give it to you. So some people are, they could be housebound in the hospital, et cetera. We ask, there's a couple simple questions. Can they talk to us over the phone, tell us what they want, and can they sign their name? If it's yes, except, okay, then we can talk further. If the answer of any of them is no, well, it's too late then. Person goes, well, what can we do? Well, you'll have to spend $4,000 or more going through a superior court guardianship. If you have a power of attorney, it's properly done, you're avoiding that kind of stuff. Now, with the power of attorney, again, you're giving power to someone. Let's say the power of attorney is either effective right away or only upon disability. If it's effective right away, it's called a durable power of attorney, stays in effect even if someone becomes disabled. And each year we've been kind of updating our powers of attorney because we put in a clause where someone could be a designated caregiver under one of the New Jersey statutes. We put in a clause like that, they can make decisions under the federal HIPAA, under the Post Act. So, a will is good forever. Sometimes you might want to have updates, so you gotta look to say in your will, who is executor one, executor two? I mean, most people don't usually change who they want to get their stuff, but can the executor still do the job? Kind of our rule of thumb is, can the executor drive to the bank? Can they drive to the surrogate's office? Can they sign stuff? Can they, check? If the person is blind or disabled, they may no longer be the best choice. Say, we're not anti-senior citizen, we gotta be practical. Okay, power of attorney, kind of same thing. You're picking an agent one and an agent two. Client says to me, Kenneth, I don't understand some of these legal clauses in the power of attorney. He goes, I'm a carpenter. Okay? Explain to me in carpenter language. He goes, okay. If it's effective, you put your son as your agent. If it's effective right away, your son can steal all your assets right away. If it's effective only upon disability, he needs to get a note from a doctor before he steals all your money and goes to Cuba. Knowing that, you trust your son. Because I trust my son my life. But just it's better to make it effective right away because it's effective only upon disability. The bank, the financial institution is going to say, I don't know. They're going to give you a hard time. Also, a lot of these big institutions we're giving people a hard time. Well, that power of attorney wasn't done in our form, blah, blah, blah. So New Jersey came in with a statute that said the bank, the institutions, they had to honor it if it had a reference to New Jersey statute. But that statute that has the reference was Section 2 of PL 1991, C95, C46:2B-11. And these cheap forms don't have references to that. Now, also, as I mentioned, a will is good forever, but I usually recommend a new power of attorney be signed every 5 years. Because if someone goes to present something that's 13, 12 years old, they're gonna say, how do we know this is still good? So, for some people, we just change the date. Hey, this is still good, sign. After the power of attorney is signed, I recommend that people scan it or make copies. If it's scanned, it's emailed to number one, number two. It's also a good idea to provide a copy to financial advisor, accountant, anyone that might deal with their money. This way, it's already on their record that a spouse or one of the kids is authorized to talk on their behalf. Now, the power of attorney, you're not giving up your rights. You're just saying, listen, I just want this person, I just want this family member to have the ability to help me out. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Is it also recommended for young adult children in college that they assign maybe a parent as power of attorney?
Well,
If something
the kids, the 18-year-olds have a power of attorney because they go off to college legally. The parent can't call up someone and say, hey, how's my kid doing? Because technically the college can say, we're not authorized to disclose anything. Kid goes to the hospital. Hey, how's my kid doing? Legally, we can't tell you because that kid's an adult. Every August, there's a flurry of people calling us up saying, hey, my kid's going off to school, they're 18, I want a power of attorney, because also, I want the ability to keep a handle on them.
So I know what's going on. Yes.
Is that different for like medical stuff?
The power of attorney typically is finances, and the next document I'm gonna talk about is the living will advance directive. And that's more of the medical side. I still don't in the power of attorney, I added this language in for a designated caregiver, just because it was a good place to put it in. Okay, document number 3. Living will advance directive, medical power of attorney. Living will just is easy to roll off the tongue. And so. The living will is where typically it's where someone can no longer talk for themselves. They're at the end. You know, they could be in a coma, some kind of terminal condition, they can no longer talk for themselves. I'd say, and so that you're putting it in writing, typically to hospitals, doctors, etc. Listen, if I am that sick that I can no longer talk, walk, do anything, my eyes are shut, I don't want to be on feeding tubes, I don't want to be on respirators, etc. Now, let's see, as long as you can talk, you're okay. Hospitals are going to do what's medically appropriate. I mean, they're not. If someone had a heart attack or shock or stroke, if they're buying vegetables at ShopRite, they're not going to say, well, let me leave them there. But it's really so that it's down the road, and it's an important document because this way you're taking the pressure off the family, so that they don't have to decide. Because it's a real time. I remember one time a doctor asked me for someone who did not have a living will, but I was the power of attorney. Okay, he goes, doctor, okay, should we remove life support today? Geez, doctor, I feel bad. I mean, I know the right decision is for someone who's 92 years old, it's not gonna open up their eyes again, but you hate to be the one to say, yeah, go ahead and do it, that sounds like a good, I mean, even though you know what the right thing, I mean, when my first dog was it was at the end, I couldn't go into the vet. I said, I told my wife, you gotta do it, because otherwise I'll bring the dog back home. So the document of living will really isn't for you, it's for your family, so that they don't have to suffer and decide. All they need to do is say, hey, listen, this is what the person signed, let's respect their wishes. That's their fault. So we took some of the language, by the way, from the medical society. So fluids and nutrition, 95% of people say is withheld. Section B, artificial machines. No artificial machines, no. Now, you are though having someone that you trust that can authorize to talk to doctors and make some decisions. The doctor says, listen, here's something new that just came in, and we think that it might turn things around. Would you like to try it? That's kind of a yes or no. The other important reason for having the living will advance directive is you're picking someone to kind of be your captain of the ship as far as medical. Because that way, there's the one person that doctors talk to. There's occasionally that child that was never around helping out. They didn't live around, they weren't like, they were too busy with their lives and what's going on. And one kid was the one always driving mom or dad or grandpa to the doctor's office. Then all of a sudden it's the end. And that kid that wasn't helping out, kind of walks it through and goes, okay, I'm the oldest, I'm in charge now, and this is what we're gonna do. The answer is no, you're not in charge. The document says X is in charge, and you're lucky we even let you into the room because you weren't there to help out for the past 5 years. After the living will is signed, it's a good idea to either make copies or scan it. You give it to each other, number one, number two, and a primary document. That way it's there. Say, if you have documents, look at your documents and say, hey, is this still what I want? But don't be a putter off like Carl. Say having wills done, attorneys usually charge, typically for something basic, $500 or so each. But it's an investment because if people don't have those, it's going to end up costing the family more money. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about briefly is something that's not a legal document, but something that will help your executive. It's called a letter of instruction, letter of guidance, where you're kind of writing out, some people pre-plan funerals and they're letting one executive know, hey, listen, these are my accounts, or, this is what I have. Sometimes people have like, these are the passwords that I have for, my different accounts. There was a little old lady that lived in North Plainfield. She had a great letter of instruction. She goes, I want no, handwritten, I want no wake, I want no funeral, notify these people. And that's it. But she said, this is 9 years old. Everyone I know is already gone. So I don't want to burden the executive with having to go through all of this stuff. My letter of instruction, said, if I have to pass, I'd say, I don't, you can have a wake because that's traditional, but I said, at this point, not a Catholic mass because that's very sad. I want to have a big party at the Elks Club with open bar and top shelf liquor because most Elks Club or VFWs don't have top shelf stuff. It's like, what's the cheapest stuff that we can do? And then I got then do the cremation because no one's going to come back years and like throw flowers on a tombstone. They might throw other stuff. And lastly, probate in New Jersey is easy as long as you have a will done and done right. If you don't have a will done or done right, then it's much more complicated. So most of the people that are listening or here tonight are concerned about their families, and therefore, you want to do what's best, to help people out. Okay, I have officially went past my 40 minutes. I'm going to have one of my colleagues, Dan Fabrizio, who's a financial advisor, talk for a couple of minutes about some of the mistakes that he's seen people making, and then he'll answer some questions at the end also. Thank you, Kenneth.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dan Fabrizio. I'm a financial advisor for New York Life and Nightlife Securities. And just a testament to Ken, some of the things he mentioned. I did inherit my mom's house when she passed away. I had to deal with zero taxes, and I got a stepped up basis from the time that they bought the house. So that's my new found. Okay. So I didn't have to pay taxes. My mom did have a living will. She was on a machine. Obviously, she made the decision for the 4 children. And my sister had the advanced medical directive. She was the one the doctor spoke to, and she would just keep us all in the loop. So the documents do work. I mean, they are for a reason. All right, I just want to touch base on a couple of things. 7 common retirement mistakes as people near retirement or get into retirement. I'm just going to touch base at a high level of what the new leagues are. Again, I work for New York Life Insurance. I'm a registered financial advisor with Nightlife Securities. My background, I worked 22 years on Wall Street where institutional investors were my client. Now I work on Main Street where individuals are my clients. The number one mistake I see is not planning your retirement with your life expectancy in mind. Stop using your parents and your grandparents as your life expectancy. People are living much longer today than they were 30 years ago due to medical advancements and medicines these days, all right? So rely on the data, not on what your parents and your grandparents, right? Number 2, be smart about claiming Social Security. I see so many people claiming Social Security before the fully vested retirement age. If you're born 1960 or earlier, your retirement age is age 65. People are able to collect Social Security 62. At age 62, you're taking a 26% haircut on that check. I know some people say, I have medical issues, I may not live very long. That's understandable. But if you feel that you're going to live beyond 65, why give yourself a haircut on a check that you're going to get for the rest of your life? All right, just something to keep in mind. And obviously, at age 70 is where you get the maximum Social Security. And here's some statistics. At age 62, your Social Security check is 26.7% lower than age 66. Okay, so that's cheaper. That's a smaller check. Instead of $1,000, you're getting $750. all right? At age 66, you're getting 8% more a year. So at age 70, you're getting 76% more than if you took the check at age 62. So just something to think about. If you're still working, you're healthy, you have the financial means, you don't maybe not necessarily need to take Social Security right away, okay? I have to wait to age 66 and 8 months or something like that, when I was like 61. So just keep that in mind. Number 3, taking a lump sum from a pension could lead to expensive mistakes. Now, if your company has a defined pension plan, if you're a public works employee, you're gonna get a pension, that's great, and that's probably the more preferable things. There are some individuals that companies want them out of the pension, and they give them a lump sum check when they retire. Okay, and I get some people that say, well, what do I do? How long does this last me? Well, how do I manage this? Thank God for income annuities, you create your own pension. An income annuity is when you give a lump sum check to an insurance company, and they send you a check for the rest of your life. You can never outlive an income annuity, all right? You keep living, they keep paying. If you live beyond the amount of money you gave them, they just keep paying, okay? My mom had an annuity, similar, it was a much smaller check, I knew, but she lived to 96 years old. It was far more money than she put into the annuity, okay? As an example of a lifetime annuity. And I also had a client who worked for Continental Airlines. Remember Continental? Out of Newark, they got bought by United. Well, this employee worked for Continental, never knew he was in a pension. Retired at age 80, and they gave him a lump sum check. He goes, I never knew I was in this. What do I do with this? He had to pay R&D, required minimum distributions once he got that. But he wanted a lifetime annuity to kind of advance to get that money as quick as possible, but to keep him under the maximum tax bracket. So that was able to be structured. But annuities, you can structure them any way you want for lifetime. Number 4, too much risk in your investment portfolio as you near retirement. I see this all the time. In 1922, I had my neighbor, he had $1 million as 401k. He was so happy. Things were going good for the last 5 years. He had 1 year before retirement. All of a sudden, the end of 2022, it was down 19%. And he's like, oh, what do? I just lost over $200,000. So I was able to help fix that with a fixed annuity that just kind of went up increments, and he got his money back. He's happy. He's in North Carolina now and doesn't pay too much in taxes. Very, very happy. But annuities can fix certain things when Wall Street goes curveballs at you. Number 5. Buying life insurance as an employee benefit. We all get life insurance, well, most of us, God bless you, most of us get life insurance through our employer. Might be a fixed amount, might be free, might be 1 time your salary, might be a couple of dollars per paycheck, but it's pretty good. I know when I used to work at the bank, I used to get 2 or 3 times my salary. I think it cost me $8 a paycheck. But, you know, it was a nice extra thing to have. But when you leave that company, whether you're terminated, whether you resign, or whether you retire, you lose that insurance. That's all gone. Most of it is not transferable. Take home with you. Thank God there are ways to get life insurance to meet protection goals when you're above the age of 50 that are not too expensive. Number 6, focus on assets over income. Here we are working all our lives, saving for retirement, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, some people even more than that. Then all of a sudden you retire, now you got to change the mindset. Like, okay, now I spent all my life saving retirement. How do I spend this in retirement? What do? Do I deduct 4% a year? Do I take 5% withdrawals every year? Is that going to last a lifetime? You have to sit down with a financial advisor to figure that out. Okay, it's not too hard. You got to kind of maybe put your expenses in order, pay down your mortgages, and then figure out where you're going to live, figure out your taxes. And it's just very basic math. And then you should probably do that before you retire. So if you need to work a little bit longer or make some adjustments, you can do that while you're still working. All right. And number 7, bank CDs. Older adults, when they retire, they've had a bank relationship their whole life. Bank loves you. They love taking care of your money. They like making money on your money. Then all of a sudden, they want to sell you a CD when you retire, right? Of course, I see people in their heads. It's nice, you get a 3-year CD, I see all these rates now, 5% for like 12 months and all. But you're gonna get a 1099 at the end of the year. You're paying taxes on interest that you can't even spend. Okay, as well as if you needed money for an emergency, you can't break that CD, otherwise you're getting a 10% penalty, and the bank's taking that. And then you're still gonna pay taxes on that interest that you earned before you broke the penalty. One alternative to think about is a fixed deferred annuity. It's similar to a long-term CD. The only thing, you don't get a 1099 at the end of the year, it's tax deferred. As long as the interest you've earned stays within an annuity or in an annuity, doesn't matter which one, could be multiple ones later, it's never taxed until you take the money out. And another thing, annuities have liquidity. You can take out the 10% a year without any penalty out of the annuity without being penalized. So there are some benefits with fixed annuities, but you have to put money in the CD for say 2, 3, or 4 years or longer. Okay, so those are the 7 common things I see. I'll take questions afterwards if people want to talk about personal situations. And annuities very quickly. Annuities are issued by insurance companies. They are not FDIC insured, but that's why it's important to go with a top tier insurance company that has a AAA financial background. New York Life does have a AAA rating. And they also have $700 billion of assets under management. They own several hedge funds and all. You want a financial stronghold type of an insurance company when it comes to annuities. 3 basic annuities. You got your fixed annuity, which is like a long-term bank CD. You do it between 3 years and 8 years. You have a variable annuities, and there's many versions of variable annuities. Some have rates, some have fees, some don't have fees. And going back, fixed annuities do not have fees. Okay, variable annuities, some of them you have to put in for retirement, and you can't touch the money to after age 59 and a half. So be careful on the variable annuities. Some of them you don't have to be age 59. But there are variable annuities do have fees associated with them, so be careful with those. And then there's the income annuities, in which there are several types. Income annuities, when you give a lump sum to an insurance company or to the insurance company, you can do it in one lump sum, or you can make multiple payments into it, save it for retirement. They're called future income annuities, where when you are ready to retire, then it turns into an income stream. Okay, so you have your 3 basic annuities: your fixed, your variable, and your income annuities. And that's all I really have tonight. If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. If not, I have these little information cards. If you just want to put your name and phone number down, I'll give you a call, and we can talk about any topic you want anytime afterwards. Okay. Thank you very much for having me. Have a great day.
My mother was so insulted by, like I said, the principal of the high school or the school. That's terrible.
Just trying to make it. Okay, so at some point, you'll let us know or let me know where it is.
So we had 2 people on the Zoom.
There we go.
Thank you.